Welcome to the Worship Center in Bryant Road, Maryland, where Jesus is saving lives, saving souls, and saving futures. Now here's Dr. Steve Davis with wisdom tips, life treats, and gold nuggets from God's Word.
What to do while you're waiting. What do you do while you're waiting? How do you use that time? You might be waiting for the right door to open up, or for the right person to come into your life, or for the right place to live. It might be a ministry opportunity that you're waiting on. Maybe waiting for that loved one that you've been praying for to come to the Lord, or for another prayer to be answered. But I know this, it can seem like it takes so long. So what do you do during that time? You might be waiting for somebody to share your life with, someone to fall in love with. And you're just wondering, when's it going to happen? Or if it's going to ever happen. For more people than you can imagine, there's a sense of disappointment, a sense of hopes that aren't going to happen, and things that just never came to pass. And I don't want you to be in that situation. Life, though, doesn't have a pause button. We don't have a little button where you can just hit pause and then go out and waste your time doing a whole lot of nothing, waiting for something good to come along. Life moves on, even if you're not using it very well. So it's important to learn how to use your downtime. You might be waiting because you feel like your best years are behind you if you're a little older. And you might feel like you really don't have a lot to offer anymore. And yet, God still has you here. So I can tell you that He doesn't have you here for no reason. There's some reason you're here. Ephesians 5 verses 16 and 17 say that we need to be redeeming the time because the days are evil, and to not be unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. One thing to look out for, I found, is impatience. What do you do in your downtime? What do you do while you're waiting? For a lot of people, they figure that since things aren't really happening for them and nothing's going on, well, nothing matters. They might as well do just whatever they feel like because their situation isn't very key. It's not important right now. Nothing's happening there. Like the person who's waiting for true love might decide to just go out and be with anybody who will have them. And meanwhile, the one they're waiting for might even pass by and see them with some other person and think, okay, they're already in a relationship, let me move on. And he might never even approach that person who's just out with whoever will spend the evening with them. Or we get impatient and just go for not just the first relationship with someone who will have us, but take that first job that comes along, even though we can't stand it, or buy that first car we run across that's cheap. And we end up with more frustrations and problems and sadness, wondering, why do I have all these things going wrong in my life? And we find impatience in the Bible way back at the beginning. Abraham and Sarah wanted a child, and God promised them a child. But guess what? They got tired of waiting. They got impatient, and they came up with a plan for Abraham to get Sarah's personal assistant, Hagar, pregnant. And they lost peace in their house. And when Sarah did conceive Isaac a few years later, there was nothing but problems between all of them. And to this day, there are still problems between the descendants of Ishmael, those are the Arabs, and the descendants of Isaac, which live in modern-day Israel. And I just want to share a few things that will help you while you're waiting. Ways to redeem the time and to experience fulfillment and joy even now while you're waiting. First, of course, I talked about dealing with impatience. Then there's discontentedness, restlessness. When we're waiting, we can easily get restless and discontented. And that restlessness, that discontented feeling can keep you from appreciating the present. It can dull your senses to good things that are going on around you, to opportunities that are right here, but somehow you miss them because of being discontented. Not knowing how to wait is what gets a lot of people in trouble. That's why there's that old saying that the devil finds work for idle hands, or an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Discontentment keeps you from being able to endure. And we need to know how to endure, to wait well. Waiting well is a skill. And while we're waiting, we can learn to adapt to the present and begin preparing for the future that we're waiting for. That adapting is an instrument of change that so many miss out on. The third thing to look out for is becoming distracted, getting our eye off the prize, off the goal. While we're waiting, it's so easy to get distracted and miss when our opportunity comes. It's like you might be there at the bus stop and you get bored of waiting and you wander off looking around what else is going on. Meanwhile, the bus comes and we miss it. Lamentations chapter 3, verse 25 says that the Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the person who will seek him. In Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9, God says for us to not be weary in well-doing, because at the right time we will reap if we don't faint or if we don't give up. So we want to grow, we want to mature and develop during our wait time. So here are a handful of things to develop. Number one, anticipation. In the place of discontentment, we can enjoy our anticipation. Anticipation stokes the feelings of joy as we look forward to our answer coming through or our dream coming true. Anticipation brings a joy to our time of waiting. I mean, waiting isn't just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, resenting every minute between now and when your answer comes. Waiting isn't doing nothing. Waiting is a time with a purpose. There's a reason you don't just plant a seed and then suddenly you're there enjoying your flower that you planted, or grapes or tomatoes or watermelons or whatever it is you planted. Waiting is a time of development. It's a time of growth. John's Gospel, chapter 5, starting at verse 1 says, "After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, there's at Jerusalem, it says, by the sheep market, a pool which is called Bethesda, and it has 5 porches. And on those porches lay a great multitude of handicapped people. Some of them were blind, some were lame, different ones with different problems, waiting. It was a time of waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and would stir the waters. And then whoever was then first after the stirring of the waters, whoever stepped in was made whole, or they were healed of whatever disease or issue they had. And a certain man was there who had an infirmity for 38 years. And when Jesus saw him laying there and knew he'd been there a long time in that case, Jesus said to him, "Do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be made whole?" And the man answered him, saying, "Sir, I don't have anybody to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm making my way there, another person steps in before me." And Jesus looks at him and says, "Rise, take up your bed and walk." Jesus showed him that the answer you're looking for can come to you right where you are. Jesus said, "Rise up, take up your bed and walk." Get up right where you are. Jesus didn't say, "Well, let me see if I can drag you to the edge of the pool and then get that angel to come down here again and stir the waters for you and I'll throw you in there, buddy." No, Jesus showed that the blessing of God is right there where you are. God's blessing reaches to right where you are right now. The healing power of God was activated right there where the man was talking to Jesus. A second thing is patience. Waiting well and not taking things into your own hands. That's a way to acknowledge God's timing. You will reap in due season if you don't faint, if you don't give up. Impatience and discontentment can mess us up by causing us to try to get ahead of God, like planting your flowers in December or January instead of waiting until April, at least in the part of the country we're in. Discontentment can cause us to try a substitute and settle for less or different than what God had in mind for us. Number 3, appreciation. Sometimes we're so obsessed with whatever is out of sight and out of reach that we don't see what's right here in front of us. We discount it. We devalue what's right here at hand. We don't see what's close. And some of us want so many good things in our future that we don't even see the good things that are in our present. We don't see the good things that God has already brought to us. Number 4, you might want to write this one down, a SWOT assessment. What do you do while you're waiting? Start a SWOT assessment, SWOT. That's inventorying, what do you have? S, what are your strengths? W, what are your weaknesses? O, what are your opportunities? T, what are your threats or weaknesses and things to look out for that may knock you over or get in the way? Sometimes you have to realize that something in your present is the key to your future. Like when the multitude was gathered around Jesus and the disciples said to Jesus that the people hadn't eaten for 3 days, Jesus then answered, "Well, what do you have?" They already knew what they had. They said, "Well, there is a boy here, this kid here with 5 loaves and 2 fish. They did know what they did have, exactly what they had, how many and what they had. Jesus said, "Bring him here to me." What they had was a key to what they were needing and what their miracle would be. The boy with the 5 loaves and 2 fishes was the key to one of the major miracles in the ministry of Jesus. Number 5, live as if. Jesus gave the loaves and the fishes to the disciple to distribute to the multitudes. Now notice this, and I had never noticed it this way before. Those disciples hadn't eaten yet, and Jesus is telling them to go out and distribute food to the hungry multitudes. These guys were hungry, but they gave as if they were full. And in the end, everybody got to eat until they were full, including the disciples. And then the disciples gathered up 12 basketfuls of leftovers. I would say a basket for each one of them. You need to operate as if you're full, even when you're empty. The disciples were going to be empty anyway, no matter how they acted. Giving out food is something that you do as if you're full. And they did that by handing out the food enough to feed thousands of people, yet they hadn't even had a bite of it. And what that means for us is that you begin to act like someone whose answer has already come. Develop the thoughts, the knowledge, the standards, develop the vocabulary, and you prepare for that answered prayer, for that opportunity. Develop the skills you need as if you were already there. Like the single guy looking for a girlfriend. He doesn't trim his neck hairs, and his hair's oily, dresses like a walking yard sale, has lousy posture, smells rancid and all that. But he says, well, when I get a girlfriend, man, I'll clean up and pay attention to my personal hygiene, and I'll dress better. Well, I'm going to tell you this, the price of your blessing is to prepare for it. You want a better position on the job? Then dress like that position. Talk like it. Learn what you need to learn. Act like someone in that position. And before long, somebody will notice you, someone who has the ability to open doors for you. If that single guy would dress like he has already met the girl of his dreams and act like it and talk like it and be ready, I can tell you somewhere that girl is going to notice that fine-dressed, intelligent, well-spoken, clean young man. I just know that's how it works. Acting as if is a good part of preparation. It helps you to internalize the new things that will come to you, that open door that will come to you, that new relationship, that new situation, so you'll fit right in when it actually comes to pass in your life. That's a solid part of anticipation. It adds joy to the waiting. It prepares you. It changes how you use your time. It changes what you read and what you learn. It changes how you speak, all of it. Might change your personal hygiene. And that's something God is doing in our lives as he's conforming us to the image of Christ Jesus. We're waiting for heaven, but living by the power of the Spirit here on earth as if we're already there. And we're preparing our hearts and our minds to be among the citizens of heaven one day, whenever that is. Acting as if is a thing that becomes a very real part of who you are. It brings significant change. When I gave my heart to the Lord, my pastor didn't give me a bunch of rules. You know what he said? He said, look, from now on, I want you to live like you're saved. He said, live like you're a saved, born-again child of God. And I began to live as if I'd gotten saved. Number 7, value the present. You want to pour your best. You want to pour your best into the present time. Learn all you can, grow all you can, serve all you can, and that will change your immediate environment and will change many of your circumstances. That habit of being excellent gives you a better testimony, a better voice to those around you. And somewhere it will come to someone who can bring the difference to your life. And this becomes your testimony. Your attitude is speaking for you. Your work is speaking for you. Your interactions with people are speaking for you. Your life is speaking in ways that other people understand. And like Jesus said in Matthew 5, verse 16, let your light so shine before men or before people so that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. That's your testimony. Number 8, prepare yourself. Preparing for your future is the most important thing you can be doing while you're waiting. You can't skip the preparation part. You want a husband or wife? How do you prepare? Become the kind of person who would be a great person to live with, to hang out with, to build a life with. And read all you can about being a good marriage partner. There's more information online than you've got time to even read or understand. Videos and blogs, all kinds of things to build your patience, grow your maturity, grow your empathy. Learn to listen, really listen. And while you're waiting, spend that time growing, producing, and developing. Number 9, you've prepared yourself. Number 9, prepare your environment. I visited a young guy looking for a wife, and we were talking about that. And I was over at his apartment. There were piles of dirty clothes, empty and partly empty pizza boxes, some on the floor for his cats to eat the scraps out of. There was one on the counter that a cat was eating from. And I could see into his bedroom down the hall, a bed with no sheets on it, just a couple blankets wadded up in the middle of it, empty bottles and food containers in there too. I mean, he might have been ready, but he sure hadn't prepared his environment. So think about this. What can I do in my environment to get it ready for my answered prayer? Even your car, if you have one. What can I do that it will be ready when my opportunity comes? Here's a hint. There has to be a ready space for someone to sit in the passenger seat and a place for their feet on the floor. That's just a hint. That's a thing to do while waiting. And then number 10, the last one here I'm giving today is, who can you help? People need help, and they shouldn't have to wait until all your needs are met and all your problems are solved before they get help. You don't have to have it all together before you help somebody else. Bringing help to someone else is part of what sets in motion your help coming to you. Who can you invite to church? Who can you share a video with? Who can you just be there for, just as a comfort? And that is just so important. And I have to tell you that I'm so thankful that you're listening to me today and watching and telling others about it. That's one way you can be a part of this ministry. And I want you to be a part of this ministry by sharing these video teachings and messages and being prayed for, praying for me. I always need it, appreciate it, and we totally thank God for you. Thanks so much, and God bless.
We hope you were blessed, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. And we pray that God spoke some inspired truths into your heart. This ministry is supported by your gifts and donations. If you'd like to help us spread the good news, you can give at our website, www.theworshipcenter.org, or you can text to give at 301-637-0777. It's easy and takes only seconds to set up. Thank you for listening, and God bless you and your family.